Oregon versus California. No, this is not a recap of the Bears versus the Ducks. This is a take on living in Oregon versus living in California from someone who's done both. So my number one takeaway in Oregon is yes, it rains. And yes, it takes some getting used to. No, you don't need to carry an umbrella with you everywhere you go. You might want to at first. Yes, you will have to think about what footwear you have because you cannot wear your flip-flops out in the rain all the time. But I can tell you that it's an adjustment period. You'll learn to get a jacket with a hoodie. You'll learn when you can wear the chacos and when you can't, and you'll learn how to adjust to the rain. If you're a pluviophile, you will love it here because there's just enough rain to be enticing, but it's not overbearing usually. So yes, it rains in Oregon and it can be welcome or you might struggle with it. Number two, no, you cannot pump your own gas. They will do it for you. And yes, it takes extra time. So when you need to fill up, sometimes it can take 10 or 15 minutes to stop. You have to wait in line. There's an attendant. You have to give them your card. You have to, guess what? It's another opportunity to actually meet a cool person because the gas station attendants in Oregon are great people and they work hard for us. So yes, it will slow you down and it does take some getting used to, but after living here for about 20 years, I can tell you when I go to other states where you don't pump your own gas, sometimes I go and I sit there for a while and then I think, oh yeah, nobody's gonna show up and pump my gas. I need to get out and do it myself. So that is something for you to consider and that is a big difference. It's a little thing, but it's a big difference between Oregon and California. Number three, large events / concerts mostly happen in Portland. So if you're not in Portland, you have to figure out how to plan and how to get yourself to Portland. If you want to go to a concert at the Rose Garden, you have to kind of start to learn, okay, where's the Rose Garden located? What kind of hotel do I want to be at? What kind of restaurant do I want to eat at? And you'll start to learn those things. So large events really only happen in one spot, which is a good and a bad, as opposed to California where you can have large performance and concerts anywhere throughout the state. It really mostly happens in Portland here. Oh, speaking of Portland, yes, parts of Portland can be a little rioty. Yes, that's a thing. You will see sometimes, and it's just always been like this. Portland is, quote, weird, and it's always been weird. And you will see some people out there protesting and stating their opinions throughout the year. That's a very normal thing in Portland. It's not something that happened in the last 2 or 3 years. It just got a lot of media coverage. What you want to do is you just want to plan on staying away from some of those areas. It's kind of near town. It's away from the Pearl District, so there's plenty of opportunities for you to enjoy restaurants and other things without being in the riot section of Portland. Number five, California is a beautiful and incredibly diverse place to live and experience. The topography, the geography, all the climates are in California. It's hard to beat. I know that as a former Californian, you know, we talk about the beauty in Oregon and Oregon is so beautiful. Honestly, California is nearly impossible to beat. You don't have the beaches like San Diego. Yes, the Oregon coast is amazing, but the beaches in San Diego or Mendocino or San Luis Obispo or all those areas, we don't have those in Oregon. We have some beautiful lakes. We have some mountains, but it's different than California. I would say if you're an outdoor enthusiast, California and Oregon are pretty similar. The difference between the two is that you might be able to get to those in Oregon a little bit closer, right? Because California is so huge. If you live in Northern California, but you want to go to some sandy beaches, you're gonna have to fly or take a long drive. In Oregon, if I want to go and enjoy the coast or the beaches, it's maybe 4 or 5 hours to get there, and it just really gives me many opportunities. So that's kind of a comparison between those two. Car insurance, registration, all cheaper in Oregon. Why? Well, there's a number of factors. Number one is the California drivers. In California, I don't know if you noticed this, but the drivers are crazy. So the insurance rates are higher, as well they should be. Registration is cheaper in Oregon for your car. It's going up, so it's not super cheap like it is in Washington, but I can tell you that's a little difference that makes a big deal in your monthly budget too. So you can save a little bit of money on car insurance, and no, this is not a Geico ad. Number seven, Oregon does not have sales tax. So if an item is listed at $1.99, you pay $1.99. That took some getting used to too. I remember I used to pull out extra cash and I'd be like, oh, how much do I owe you? And they'd say $1.99. I'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot. No sales tax. So that will take an adjustment. What we do have in Oregon though, income tax, and a strong income tax too. Oregon actually happens to be one of the highest tax burden states in the United States, and that is largely because of the income tax component. So that is something definitely to be aware of, and for you to know as you're planning your budget that yeah, there's no sales tax, but a huge income tax burden. Number 8, wines are really pretty comparable. I know what you're thinking. No way does Oregon have wine that's as good as California, but we do. Mostly reds, admittedly, but the Pinot Noir from Oregon is really incredible. I know, I've been to the Central Coast wineries, I've been to Napa, I've been to Sonoma, I've checked them all out. Well, not all of them, but I've checked many of them out. I gotta tell you, Oregon can hang. Whether it's Erath, or whether it's Applegate, or Longsword, or whether it's Schmidt, there are incredible wineries in Oregon. I'm telling you, they are comparable. Number 9, there are fewer school choices in Oregon than California. California has more charter school options, more private school options. Oregon doesn't have those same level of school choices. Yes, there's some good schools in Oregon, and it really does depend on where you're at. There are great schools in Sherwood and Lake Oswego, Salem Kaiser. Ashland has a fabulous school district. You have to really do your homework in terms of the schools. There are pluses and minuses to each one, but by and large, there are fewer school choices in Oregon than there are in California. It's just the reality of the situation. There are fewer universities, there are fewer people, therefore there are fewer options, and it's something that you really want to take into consideration if you're thinking about moving from California to Oregon. Number 10, housing affordability is an issue in both places, of course, but I think it might be a little bit worse in Oregon. Why? Well, because wages are a little bit lower in general in Oregon than they are in California, and the housing crunch has been really tough in Oregon for the last couple of years. We're having a tough time rebuilding, we're having a tough time getting enough rental units, so it's certainly a challenge. The homeless rate is higher in California than it is in Oregon, especially in Southern California, where the weather is nicer and it's easier to camp out and live on the streets, right? But Oregon is struggling with housing affordability, and it really means that you've got to really plan ahead. Please don't just think that you can pop up into Oregon and buy a cheap house. It's just not a thing, just not a possibility. So you're gonna have to be willing to it and to make concessions as you travel and as you look into different places living in Oregon. Housing affordability crisis is certainly a challenge here for sure. What do I miss the most? I miss having access to some great professional sports nearby. There's only one professional sports team in Oregon. I miss the sunny days in December and January. It's always nice in the winter to go outside and enjoy a beautiful, dry, sunny day. That's something I definitely miss. And the diversity. I miss the diversity of the mountain range and the sandy beaches. And these are the kind of things in California that I think are just priceless and you can't get anywhere else in the country, probably the world. And then the last thing, probably the biggest challenge that I had moving from California to Oregon was dealing with the go back to California where you came from kind of. Now what you need to know is that Oregonians are good people. They've got good hearts, but they really do love this place. And that means it's a great place to live. Sometimes for a while, you're gonna get the go back to California talk and you'll hear it and it's off-putting and I wish it would go away, but I don't see that ending anytime soon. For me, that was the biggest challenge. What was the biggest challenge for you coming from California to Oregon? What fears do you have? What concerns do you have? Hit me up in the comments. Let's get a conversation going. Oregon versus California. There's a lot of things to think about. I just gave you about 10. What do you think?